things have taken an unexpected turn, and not in a good way. Just when people thought Terrence Howard had closed the chapter on his unsettling claims about Diddy allegedly making advances toward him, fresh whispers suggest there is more to that story than he let on during that podcast. But here is where it gets even more serious. According to insiders, federal prosecutors are not just sitting on their hands. They have reportedly revised the indictment against Diddy, now tacking on 2 additional charges. Along with those new additions, there are also updates to the earlier list of accusations, signaling that this case is far from over. And then comes the most alarming part. There's growing talk on the streets that Ava, Diddy's adopted daughter, may have been identified as one of the new alleged victims. If these rumors are even partially true, it means this situation is unraveling in ways few could have imagined, dragging in people from within his own home. What once seemed like isolated stories are now shaping up to be part of a much larger and darker narrative. Word on the street is that Ava might soon be stepping into the spotlight, not for fame, but to testify against Diddy in court. With the trial heating up, many are saying this could be the final blow that brings everything crashing down for him. And surprisingly, Terrence Howard might end up playing a major role in that unraveling. Now, let us rewind to Terrence's podcast, Appearance, the one where things got more uncomfortable than anyone expected. At first, it seemed like he was just sharing another Hollywood horror story, but as he kept talking, it became clear that the situation was deeper and darker than people thought. Terrence revealed that Diddy allegedly tried to initiate something far more personal and inappropriate with him. During the interview, Terrence was asked directly, had he ever been in a position where Diddy invited him to hang out, and he declined? His response was swift and clear, hell yeah. But saying no came with its own price. He explained that Diddy had reached out to him for weeks, supposedly to get some help with acting. According to Terrence, Diddy wanted him to come over and serve as an acting coach. Terrence agreed, thinking it was just about work. But once he got there, things felt off. Instead of diving into any material or scripts, Diddy just sat there staring, offering no direction, just silence and a strange kind of energy. Terrence said the next step was Diddy asking to hear his music, so he went along with it again. But with each interaction, it seemed less about professional interest and more about luring him into something else entirely. What Terrence shared was not just uncomfortable, it pointed to a pattern. And if even part of his experience mirrors what others have claimed, then this story might only be scratching the surface of what truly went on behind closed doors. Things have taken an unexpected turn, and not in a good way. Just when people thought Terrence Howard had closed the chapter on his unsettling claims about Diddy allegedly making advances toward him, fresh whispers suggest there is more to that story than he let on during that podcast. But here is where it gets even more serious. According to insiders, federal prosecutors are not just sitting on their hands. They have reportedly revised the indictment against Diddy, now tacking on 2 additional charges. Along with those new additions, there are also updates to the earlier list of accusations, signaling that this case is far from over. And then comes the most alarming part. There's growing talk on the streets that Ava, Diddy's adopted daughter, may have been identified as one of the new alleged victims. If these rumors are even partially true, it means this situation is unraveling in ways few could have imagined, dragging in people from within his own home. What once seemed like isolated stories are now shaping up to be part of a much larger and darker narrative. Word on the street is that Ava might soon be stepping into the spotlight, not for fame, but to testify against Diddy in court. With the trial heating up, many are saying this could be the final blow that brings everything crashing down for him. And surprisingly, Terrence Howard might end up playing a major role in that unraveling. Now, let us rewind to Terrence's podcast, Appearance, the one where things got more uncomfortable than anyone expected. At first, it seemed like he was just sharing another Hollywood horror story, but as he kept talking, it became clear that the situation was deeper and darker than people thought. Terrence revealed that Diddy allegedly tried to initiate something far more personal and inappropriate with him. During the interview, Terrence was asked directly, had he ever been in a position where Diddy invited him to hang out, and he declined? His response was swift and clear, hell yeah. But saying no came with its own price. He explained that Diddy had reached out to him for weeks, supposedly to get some help with acting. According to Terrence, Diddy wanted him to come over and serve as an acting coach. Terrence agreed, thinking it was just about work. But once he got there, things felt off. Instead of diving into any material or scripts, Diddy just sat there staring, offering no direction, just silence and a strange kind of energy. Terrence said the next step was Diddy asking to hear his music, so he went along with it again. But with each interaction, it seemed less about professional interest and more about luring him into something else entirely. What Terrence shared was not just uncomfortable, it pointed to a pattern. And if even part of his experience mirrors what others have claimed, then this story might only be scratching the surface of what truly went on behind closed doors. Walks away. Well, it looks like Terrence is finally starting to spill what he knows. A word on the streets is that it is allegedly having to do with Diddy's adopted daughter Ava Barron and what really happened to her. Now, there have over the past past few years, fans have quietly questioned what really happened to Ava. But now, those questions are growing louder. And based on the recent things Terrence Howard has revealed, the truth may be far more troubling than anyone imagined. Many believe Ava might be one of the alleged victims connected to Diddy's deepening legal troubles. And if that is true, the situation becomes even more heartbreaking. To understand the weight of this, let us rewind to 2020. It was the height of the pandemic, a time when the world felt uncertain and vulnerable. Out of nowhere, Diddy made an unexpected announcement. He had adopted a young white girl named Ava Barron Combs. Practically overnight, she was introduced to the world as a new member of the Combs family. Diddy went live on Instagram, proudly showing Ava to his followers. He presented her as part of his life without much context, leaving viewers surprised and somewhat confused. The moment came and went quickly, so quickly that many people either dismissed it as another celebrity headline or simply forgot about it as the world continued to spiral through the chaos of COVID-19. Since then, Ava has remained largely out of the spotlight. Her name barely surfaced, until now. As Diddy's legal battles have begun to dominate headlines, Ava's name has quietly resurfaced in conversations, raising concern and speculation about her involvement in the wider allegations. Back in 2020, the announcement felt touching, a powerful man opening his home to a child during one of the most difficult times in recent history. On the surface, it looked like a story of compassion. But now, with everything coming to light, many are wondering if there was more beneath that carefully curated moment. What once seemed like a generous act is now being viewed in a much darker context. And as more layers are peeled back, Ava's story may end up being one of the most heartbreaking pieces in this entire puzzle. At first glance, Diddy's decision to adopt Ava during the height of the pandemic seemed like a heartfelt move. Many praised him for stepping in, believing he was offering a child love, safety, and stability during an uncertain time. The gesture was widely seen as noble, and few questioned it. But now, as troubling allegations against Diddy continue to unfold, people are rewatching that same video with a very different lens, and what once felt touching now feels deeply unsettling. In Horao, the Instagram live video, Diddy is seen introducing Ava, who cheerfully says, "My name's Ava, I'm a Scorpio." When asked for her full name, she replies, "Ava Barron Combs." Diddy, smiling, announces the news like it is a headline. It's breaking news. Diddy adopted a white child. He urges Ava to explain their story, prompting her to recount how she was on the streets until Papa decided that he would like to be a caring man. She says he woke me up and said to come inside, adding that his kids seemed to like her a little more than I suspect. Though the exchange seems lighthearted at face value, there is something about the way it unfolds that now raises alarm bells. Diddy goes on to liken his adoption of Ava to that of celebrities like Madonna, Charlize Theron, and Sandra Bullock, women who famously adopted children of different racial backgrounds. He says he wanted Ava to experience the love and care of a black parent, someone who could help guide and support her. He even makes a point to clarify that he had permission from her biological mother, and that Ava was already familiar with his children, having met them when she was just 6 months old. But today, with the weight of recent allegations surrounding him, this same clip feels like a red flag in plain sight. What once seemed like a spontaneous and kind-hearted moment is now being dissected frame by frame, with people questioning his true intentions. The public comparison to Madonna's high-profile adoptions, once brushed off as celebrity banter, now appears strategic, an effort to normalize the move and present it as harmless. But with everything that has come to light, many are no longer taking these actions at face value. The concern is not just about optics anymore, it is about what may have been happening behind the scenes. Let us pause for a moment and face reality. Diddy's choice to publicly liken Ava's adoption to Madonna's was not just bold, it was eyebrow-raising. Why? Because Madonna's adoption history is mired in serious controversy. According to multiple international sources, not all her adoptions followed proper legal protocols. The Ethiopian World Federation even accused her of manipulating vulnerable families, alleging that she promised education opportunities abroad, only to adopt the children permanently under questionable terms. So for Diddy to reference her as a model of adoption, that in itself raised more than a few alarms. But what has truly captured the public's attention now is the unsettling tone of the video where Ava was first introduced. The atmosphere felt strange even to casual viewers. One of the biggest questions circling around is, why were Diddy's sons so prominently placed in that moment, while his daughters were noticeably absent? If Ava had bonded with the girls, why not highlight that? Instead, she was surrounded by the boys, and the optics made some viewers uncomfortable. Even more concerning was Ava's demeanor. Her body language language spoke volumes: nervous glances, stiff posture, and a smile that never quite reached her eyes. To some, it may have just seemed like an awkward moment in front of a camera, but to others, it felt like something more, like a child trying to navigate a space where the energy was off. And when you take into account that Diddy's sons are not exactly free from controversy themselves, the situation becomes even murkier. Justin has been linked to legal issues through a lawsuit involving Lil Rod, and Christian has his own tangled legal troubles. All of this adds layers of tension to that otherwise short video clip. The discomfort in the room was almost palpable, but perhaps the most jarring part of the story is what happened after, or more accurately, what did not happen. Ava, who was introduced so publicly as a new addition to the Combs family, given a new last name, even calling Diddy Papa Combs, essentially vanished from view. No more social media posts, no more family videos. Aside from a couple of brief moments with Diddy's twin daughters, she faded completely from the public eye. And now, as a flood of disturbing accusations against Diddy surfaces, including serious claims about trafficking and mistreatment, fans are revisiting that video and asking hard questions. What really happened to Ava? Was her disappearance just a quiet exit from the spotlight, or is there something much more troubling underneath it all? The silence around her now feels deafening and deeply suspicious. What once seemed like a heartwarming act of kindness is now unraveling into something far more disturbing. The public is no longer viewing Ava's adoption by Diddy as a simple tale of compassion. Speculation has turned it into a mystery filled with unsettling questions. People are beginning to wonder if the story we were told was only the surface of a much darker reality. And just when the whispers began to grow louder, Diddy's former bodyguard, Gene Deal, stepped into the conversation, and he did not hold back. According to Gene, the adoption of Ava was never about love or providing a stable home. In his words, it was nothing more than a carefully orchestrated PR move. He claims Diddy brought Ava, allegedly a homeless girl at the time, into his life during the pandemic, not out of compassion, but as a strategic way to soften his image and earn public sympathy. With the world locked down and uncertainty everywhere, adopting a child could easily be seen as a noble, selfless gesture. And that, Gene suggests, was the whole point. But according to Gene, once the cameras stopped rolling and the public's attention moved on, so did Diddy. He alleges that Ava was gradually pushed to the sidelines, treated less like a cherished daughter and more like a discarded prop from a campaign that had served its purpose. Gene painted a troubling picture, one where a vulnerable child was allegedly used as a tool to boost someone else's reputation. He found a little homeless girl, Gene said, brought her into his world under the appearance of adoption, and then pretended to love her as if she was truly his own. To Gene, it was all about optics, not genuine care. Now, with Ava's disappearance from the public eye and new revelations surfacing by the day, people are re-examining everything. The puzzle pieces are no longer fitting into the narrative that once looked like a generous act. They are starting to form a very different and deeply unsettling picture. Behind the curtain of fame and flashing lights, what seemed like genuine care may have been nothing more than an illusion. Gene Deal, who once stood at Diddy's side as a trusted bodyguard, has been pulling back the veil, and what he's revealing is deeply unsettling. While Gene never directly accused Diddy of harming Ava, his words painted a grim picture that left many shaken. He strongly implied that something darker could have taken place, though he left those details hanging in the air, just enough to stir doubt and suspicion. According to Gene, there are things that insiders in the entertainment world already know about Diddy, but very few are brave enough to speak out. He made it clear. These stories about Diddy's troubling. So when Gene Deal, Diddy's former bodyguard, began revealing what he claimed to know, it hit a nerve. He was not just offering random accusations. He was pointing a finger at a culture of silence and protection that goes much deeper than any one person. But then Gene dropped something even more unsettling. He suggested that Diddy might have had disturbing video footage involving Ava. He did not mince words. He described these alleged recordings as deeply inappropriate, possibly even criminal in nature. Even more chilling, Gene claimed that federal investigators were now actively searching for these videos, implying that authorities believe they might actually exist. Whether these tapes will ever come to light remains to be seen, but Gene's statement was clear. The truth, no matter how long it has been buried, always finds a way to rise. And if what he says is true, then we are only just beginning to see the surface of a much darker story. It seems that 50 Cent has had a front row seat to Diddy's world of controversy for a lot longer than most people realized. Allegedly, he's been sitting on some insider knowledge about Diddy's alleged wrongdoings, keeping it close to the chest long before the recent flood of receipts started to surface. For years, 50 has been throwing subtle warnings, but many dismissed him, brushing it off as just another feud or the bitterness of a former artist who felt wronged by Diddy. And let's be honest, it's not hard to see why people would think that. 50 Cent is known for holding grudges with the tenacity of a bulldog, especially when it comes to Diddy, who he's had an ongoing ongoing rivalry with, particularly with Diddy's longtime DJ. So it's easy to write him off as just another person with unresolved beef. However, 50 has always been more than just petty. He's sharp, and over the years, his hints about Diddy have become increasingly hard to ignore. He's even suggested that there's far more to the story than we realize, including things that the authorities have been quietly sitting on. In fact, he went so far as to hint that the feds have already concealed some of the darker aspects of Diddy's dealings. His cryptic message, "This is why they put that tape," points to something more sinister lurking beneath the surface, something far more troubling than what's been revealed so far. While it's tempting to chalk this up to old grudges and animosity, 50's words suggest a deeper truth might be waiting to come to light. And as always, with him, it feels like he's just waiting for the right moment to drop the bombshells that could shake everything to its core, since words carry a weight that can't be ignored. He recently hinted that he has damning evidence regarding Diddy's alleged actions toward Ava, and this evidence is expected to be front and center in his upcoming documentary. For context, last year, 50 Cent made a bold announcement about a project on Diddy, stating, "Diddy do it, coming soon, GLG Greenlight Gang." He didn't stop there. He also made a scathing comment, suggesting that Diddy, once viewed as a billionaire mogul, should consider filing for bankruptcy. To many, 50's sharp remarks were more than just beef. They seemed to carry an underlying message about Diddy's financial and personal troubles. Now, most of the public may have forgotten about Ava amidst the storm of Diddy's controversies, but that changed when Terrence began dropping hints about knowing more. It wasn't long before the feds made a surprising update to their case against Diddy, adding 2 more anonymous individuals into the indictment. The new charges painted a darker picture, revealing a pattern of persistent and pervasive abuse, involving women and others around Diddy. This abuse, described as verbal, emotional, and physical, allegedly extended to manipulative tactics that coerced women into performing explicit acts with Diddy, and at times, with male commercial workers, too. The indictment went on to state that Diddy, along with those acting under his direction, even arranged for women and workers to travel to his locations, ensuring participation in these orchestrated activities. This revelation, coming on the heels of so much speculation, only deepens the mystery surrounding Diddy's alleged actions. It's no longer just a whisper or a series of rumors. It's starting to look like there's a much larger, more troubling truth hidden beneath the surface. With 50 Cent teasing the release of more evidence and the feds expanding their case, it's clear that the full extent of Diddy's alleged behavior is far from over. The new charges against Diddy paint a deeply disturbing picture of manipulation, control, and coercion. According to the updated indictment, Diddy and his associates allegedly used their power and influence to dominate the careers of numerous women. They exploited their financial support as a weapon, threatening to withdraw it if the women did not comply with their demand. Intimidation was used as a tool to lure women into Diddy's world, often disguised as the promise of a romantic relationship. However, the true nature of these relationships was far darker. Diddy, it is claimed, used force, threats, and manipulation to coerce at least 3 women into engaging in sexual acts. These acts were described as commercial, where the women were compensated with money, career opportunities, and even the payment of their rent and living expenses. As troubling as this sounds, it only grows darker. Some of these acts involved male workers who were part of what Diddy referred to as freak-offs. These events, according to the indictment, were not just random encounters. They were planned, staged, and meticulously orchestrated performances. These freak-offs were filmed, often using electronic devices to document every detail of the acts. This revelation has shocked many, revealing a disturbing side to Diddy's business empire, one that raises serious questions about his true character and the lengths he allegedly went to maintain control over those around him. The case against him is evolving into something far more sinister than many could have imagined, with layers of intimidation, manipulation, and abuse at its core. The allegations surrounding Diddy take an even darker turn with claims that he orchestrated the transportation of women across state lines